same title of my book, except it's going to be called The Shockumentary, America's War Against Black Children. And if there's anyone here who has a testimonial as a parent or as a teacher or as a member of the community or as a black man who remembers what you experienced as a black boy, and you would like to tell that story about how you was mistreated or about how you had to fight for your son against all types of nonsense, I'm looking for folks to interview as part of my documentary, which I'm going to use the funds from to raise money to build the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Pan-African Academy for Boys and the Anna Douglas and Amy Jakes Ashwood Academy for Girls. I believe that if we want to improve education for our children, we have to stop comparing them to the white children of America, because the white children of America are nearly in last place academically when compared to children in other industrialized nations. So if all we want is our children to be as good as white kids in America, that's not saying much because they're not doing too well. I believe that in order to adequately educate African children, there's 6 sciences that we got to give them. Because I'm not educating our children to fit into nobody's system, to go and work. I'm educating them to empower them to be entrepreneurs and work for themselves. So we're going to teach them economic and financial science. Black people are money illiterate, and I want our children by the 10th grade to be able to master stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investments, how to start a corporation, multinational business. We're going to teach them agricultural and agronomical science, agribusiness. Food is one of the biggest global industries, and we're not involved in it. On top of that, many of us are getting sick with all types of cancers because we're eating genetically modified foods. So we want to teach them how to grow their own food. Third science is going to be political and military science. I want them to understand that the HIV virus was manufactured by the United States Army Bioweapons Lab in Fort Detrick, Maryland, to reduce the population of Africans. I want them to know why President Obama was elected, and then it got nothing to do with fulfilling of Dr. King's dream. They're going to get a political education, and then next they're going to be taught the science of black family. Our divorce rate is ridiculous. The issues between black men and black women are teaching our children by example that it's not a good thing to be married to somebody who looks like you. And as a result of that, so many of our men are going to other people's daughters instead of women who look like their mother. So we got to teach our boys to be loyal to their women and teach our women to be loyal to our boys. And that's not racism, it's called self-love. And one of our weaknesses as a people is we want to love everybody else more than we love ourselves first. I'm not into that type of a theology. The other science that we're going to teach is spiritual science. And then the last science that we're going to teach is diet and nutritional science. How to eat to live, how to exercise, how to meditate. I'm a therapist, okay? And black people are suffering like crazy from addictions and depression. Cigarette addiction, alcohol, cocaine, but also the other addictions, shopping, food, and partying too much. So there's a lot that needs to be done. But if we want to remake our community, it starts with remaking the school. The only reason why the shutting down of the public schools is a bad thing is because we're not organized with our money. If we were organized, every time they close a school, we can open it back up and run it the way it needs to be ran. But because we like to spend our money on everything but the right thing, the closing down of public schools is a bad thing, when it would be a blessing if we had our money in order.
I know that you're working for young black boys, but I also noticed the same exact problem has stepped into those at an undergraduate level. Like they're taking drugs for all this time, and now at this point they're almost zombies. They have no personality, and they can't retain information, and then they're under this idea of like the reification of what's intelligent, what's they're not. So when they get to college, they don't think.
Exactly.
So what would you? Well, I guess. Is that a plan also of yours that you plan on touching on the undergraduate level?
Oh, without question. In fact, in my book, I got a whole chapter on miseducation in the undergraduate level. Here's the thing with the whole ADHD movement. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the United States government funded a research project back in the 1980s called the Federal Anti-Violence Initiative. Do your research on the Federal Anti-Violence Initiative. It was the research that said black men had a gene that predisposed us to kill each other. Do y'all remember that? Okay, that's where ADHD, conduct disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder came from. It was a social control movement that was influenced by the FBI that basically said the best way to control or prevent another black riot, another black social unrest, was to drug the potential revolutionaries as children to prevent them from being the leaders of tomorrow. That's what this is about. It ain't about education. It's about controlling black revolutionary energy so that it's not used to improve our condition. They are effeminizing our boys through those medications. They are pacifying them and then turning them into research monkeys and baby Frankensteins.
My.